Did you know that 67 cents of every dollar spent at a small business stays in the community versus only 11 cents when you buy something from a national chain? That means each time you shop local, you're investing directly into the future of your community. District Bridges is all about making that even easier. It's been supporting small businesses in Wards 1, 2, and 3 for over a decade, making sure that the institutions that help our communities thrive and are here to stay. Follow District Bridges on Instagram at District Bridges to learn about volunteer opportunities, community cleanups, events, and more.
Today on CityCast DC, Donald Trump has been in office for 100 days, and with all the big changes his administration has brought to the DMV, it's easy for the actual impact of it to get lost in the absolute deluge of stories. So I'm here with my colleagues Julia Karen and Priyanka Tilve to break down what the first 100 days of his administration has meant for DC. Today's Wednesday, April 30th. I'm Bridget Todd, and here's what DC is talking about. Julia, Priyanka, I know you both know almost more than anybody, I would say, that I guess we'll say the last 100 days has been a lot.
More than anyone in a good way, a bad way?
All of the above?
Yeah, all of the above.
Yeah, I was at a picnic this weekend and someone asked me if I've been affected personally in any way by all of the chaos that's ensued since January 20th. And I was like, well, it kind of affects my job.
If by kind of you mean every day we're wondering for the next shoe to drop and then we have to change stories midstream and you stay up till 11 and do work, yeah, I mean, that affects your job a little bit, just a tiny bit.
Just a little bit, yeah. But it's been, there's been so much. Like, it kind of blows my mind how much local impact this administration has, and not just President Trump, but also Congress, in some ways more so Congress, the impact that they've had on our city in just 3 months.
It's been infuriating, but also inspiring to be on a team with you two. And I really do see, like, we work hard to make sure that we're honoring our city and, like, informing people. And if folks listening are like, that is good work, you are doing good work and want to support that, how can they do that?
They can become a CityCast neighbor.
Yeah, they can.
It's just a new name for our membership program that's existed for a while. But in addition to that new name, we're rolling out a whole bunch of new benefits. If you've been listening to the show for the last week, you've heard us thanking new neighbors. So every person who becomes a member gets their name read out on the show. We're also giving people a chance to, like, shout out local businesses or local nonprofits that they're really passionate about, which is really cool. And then you also get ad-free listening. You get access to members-only events. You get a weekly email from our newsletter writer, Kayla, that helps you plan out your week ahead because she curates, like, all of the coolest events happening around town. And if you sign up this week, you'll also get an adorable mug, plus a little bit of Julia and my dignity. Julia, you want to tell people what we're doing?
Sure thing. So here's the deal. We got to get to 85 members by the end of the week. We're about halfway there. We're doing good work. Y'all are moving the cart forward. However, as added incentive, if you have ever wondered what I looked like during my party days at Mount Holyoke College, if you have ever wondered what Priyanka looked like in high school, this is for you. If we hit 85 members, and only if we hit 85 members, the team will be releasing some embarrassing photos of ourselves. So hopefully that's the little carrot you need to sign up for membership.
To be clear, this is a photo that I have refused to show to friends. It involves a onesie, a piñata, Care Bears, a knee brace, and 17-year-old me. So if that's enticing.
What was the event? Like, what was the theme of the night out that you had? Jeez. I guess you have to become a member to find out. Exactly. It should be the picture and the backstory to the picture.
Yes, that too. Yes. I will say, if you are wondering what grade of photo this is on my end, I have a group of close friends, and we have a folder on our phones called rehearsal dinner material. This photo is in that rehearsal dinner material. So just saying.
Julia sent this photo to me this morning and I burst out laughing. So that's what you've got coming for you.
And they asked me to participate in this, and I said I look great in every photo, so I'm unable to participate, but...
It's factually correct, though. Bridget does look great in every photo. I don't know how you take a bad photo.
I'm like Beyonce. I am very particular about the photos of me that are allowed to exist out in the world, so I'm very careful about my image.
Unclockable, always.
So y'all, to become a CityCast DC neighbor, just go to membership.citycast.fm. That link again is membership.citycast.fm. Thank you so much. Okay, so let's get into these stories. So we're going to do it timer style. We've got 8 stories, 3 minutes each. Priyanka, you're going to actually be timing us, right?
Yes, I am. I'm setting up the timer right now, and then we'll get started. Okay, so first up is DC budget chaos. The city government is pulling back spending and considering some pretty dramatic service cuts immediately because of congressional interference that actually doesn't serve the federal government in any way whatsoever. It's been very hard to not get angry about this story because it feels fairly spiteful. Essentially what happened is that in all of the government shutdown chaos a few months ago when that was on the table, we ended up in a situation where legally DC was forced to revert to its 2024 budget, which is $1 billion smaller. There is a bill on the table that should fix that and allow DC to continue spending at the 2025 levels that were approved by Congress, but the House is refusing to pass it. As in, they just have not put it for a vote. DC has been lobbying pretty intensely. There's a group called Free DC that's been rounding up residents and trying to get them into congressional offices to talk about this. But the House Speaker, Mike Johnson, just doesn't seem interested in bringing this to a vote and keeps stalling on it. And it's gotten to the point where originally, like at first, city leaders were like, we're just going to keep spending at 2025 levels. It's all going to be fine. They're going to pass this bill and it's going to be fine. But now it's been about a month and they haven't passed this bill. And so it seems like they might not do it at all. And DC government, therefore, has had to make some cuts because we're already halfway through the 2025 year. And now they need to cut $1 billion from their spending. Anything I missed, y'all?
I mean, the fact that Mayor Bowser can't even release a 2026 budget because of this is wild to me. It impacts everything.
I think that's a really interesting part of the conversation, actually, because I think she could. A lot of people have argued, including Council Chairman Phil Mendelson, that she could totally come up with her 2026 budget. It's already more or less written. She's just holding off on releasing it. And I don't understand why. So I think that this congressional issue has created a little bit of local political confusion. But there are concerns that some service cuts, like schools, healthcare facilities, shelters, will be exempt from service cuts. But there might be service cuts to your local library. Maybe the pools won't open up this summer. There's no evidence for this. I'm just throwing out things that feel non-essential, but that do affect our lives. So, it is alarming and it's upsetting because this is fully local taxpayer dollars, no federal money whatsoever.
Really to the point, tough act to follow, especially given the topic I'm covering, which is the federal layoffs. You might remember in Trump 1, he said he wanted to drain the swamp. He felt that he was prohibited from doing so, that people got in his way. And this time around, he is big time serious about it. He has put in serious effort to get it done. I'm going to read a couple stats from CNN, who did a whole report on this, and these numbers are going to blow your mind a little bit. Per CNN, Trump has eliminated nearly 121,000 federal jobs. Huge number, a lot of people. And this stat made me, had my brain explode. The federal layoffs, which surged in February, then tapered down in March and April, surpassed layoffs in any other industry in 2025 so far. That's hospitality, that's restaurants, that's tech, that's everything else. Federal layoffs are number 1. So bad time to be a federal employee, guys. Really rough time. What does this mean for DC generally? Well, it's bad in more ways than one. One, it means that unemployment claims are going to skyrocket, which means DC is going to have to pay people for not working, which is not good. People are scrambling to find jobs anywhere that they can. And that's really hard because, as we've talked about on the show before, inflation is high and you got to be able to afford stuff. And if you don't work, then you can't have the money to do stuff. That's bad. Additionally, because the government is DC's largest employer, Moody's, which is a credit rating institution, downgraded DC's credit rating from AAA to AA1. AA1 is like totally fine. It's totally chill. It's not great because what it means is that DC can't borrow money the way that it used to, which, considering they've got this $1.1 billion hole in their budget, which is Congress's fault, and is in no rush to fix. That means DC can't like borrow money to pay for, building houses or trash pickup or like stocking your library with like your favorite books. So all the way down, it's not great, guys.
There's also a lot of economic uncertainty, like just like the vibes of economic uncertainty around town because of the federal layoffs. People are worried about if their jobs are going to be on the line. It's also hard for people to find new jobs because the market is so saturated with highly qualified, extremely intelligent people. And so that then affects everything else in our city. People are not going out to eat as much. There are reports that credit card spending in the DC area is lower than in other places because people are, tightening their wallets.
Yeah. As it turns out, when you impact the economy in a very specific way by taking away the one thing that the place is known for, it's bad.
Well, my topic is sort of related to that, and that is the Trump administration selling off a bunch of federal buildings in D.C. So back in February, the Trump administration ordered the General Services Administration to sell, quote, underutilized, non-essential federal properties in an attempt, they said, to streamline government real estate holdings. They've already terminated several hundred leases when they shuttered entire agencies like Voice of America. So all of those layoffs, all of those agencies and parts of the government shutting down that Julia was just talking about, that also translates to federal buildings, those leases being terminated. Because it's the Trump administration, of course, this was rolled out in a ridiculously inefficient way, which I guess they are known for at this point. Back in March, the Trump administration published a list of more than 440 federal properties that it identified to potentially offload, including places like the FBI headquarters, the Maine Department of Justice building, after deeming them not core to government operations. Then, literally just a few hours later, they put out a revised list with only 320 entities that excluded every previously listed building in Washington, D.C. The very next day, the list was gone entirely, replaced with a page online saying, quote, non-core property list coming soon, where that list had been previously posted. So, yeah, really efficient.
I just in theory, getting rid of stuff that isn't used is a great idea. The problem is the execution. It's just so discombobulated, guys.
Just like what you were just talking about, Julia, the sense is from people in the know about government real estate holdings is that you need to be doing it with a scalpel, not a sledgehammer. And this is a sledgehammer job if I've ever seen one. And I think it definitely has implications for some of the larger conversations that the mayor's been having about revitalizing DC's downtown, right? Like, if we want to have a clean, safe, thriving downtown, how does selling off all of this federal government real estate, equate to that goal?
Well, I mean, I suppose in some ways it could support that goal, right? If those buildings are sold off and become like apartment buildings or hotels or other retail spaces that actually bring people downtown and make it a more exciting place. But it's hard to do that to a dozen buildings at once. Like if they were to sell things off slowly, then I think that they could build into a cohesive vision of a new neighborhood. Like they're talking about how selling off a bunch of buildings around the Font Plaza could end up in a really cool new neighborhood in Southwest. But it's again, hard to do that when you're selling off so much property at once.
Yeah, some of the experts I read on this have said exactly that there's a way to do this efficiently. There's a way to do this where it maybe could be a good thing, but that is not just going in and selling off lots and lots of places at once without really taking the time to think about what you're doing.
We're going to continue with the theme of, in theory, a good idea, in execution, bit of a toss-up. And I am talking about, and I hate the grammar on this, it makes my brain want to explode, Trump's DC Safe and Beautiful Task Force, which essentially, in theory, totally get it. DC's got World Pride coming up. It's celebrating the United States' 250th anniversary of existing. Who doesn't want DC to be safe and beautiful? I would like DC to be safe and beautiful. But here's the thing about this task force. No one from the DC Council or the DC Police Force is on this task force. That seems like a big time oversight since they're the people running the city and trying to make DC safe and beautiful. The goal of this from what I can tell, is mostly beautifying, so like getting rid of graffiti, getting rid of trash, but also displacing homeless encampments, which they have already tried to do, or at least Mayor Bowser has done previously. Mostly, I understand why they want to do this. Like, they want the buildings to look pretty. They don't want there to be trash on the streets. They want it to be like a hospitable place for people who are coming out of town, which is DC's like main function. But the execution on this is so unhinged that even Mayor Bowser had like a backhanded compliment about beautifying the city. Like, it makes my brain want to die.
Yeah, I think she said something about how, like, well, like, you know, if you want the city to be more beautiful, maybe you should have the National Park Service do a better job of cleaning up the trash on federal lands. And she listed off a bunch of other things like that, where it's actually the federal government that's responsible for safety and beautification of some areas of the city that Trump is probably upset about. It was kind of entertaining to watch her respond in such a satirical way.
Yeah, when she gets spicy,
She gets spicy.
She gets spicy, yeah.
And I think it goes back to this conversation you were just having, Priyanka, about like, okay, if you have a shared goal, if the mayor and Trump have a shared goal of making DC more beautiful, having there be less trash, how does cutting $1 billion from our budget get us closer to this stated goal? Spoiler alert, I don't think it really does.
Also, eliminating the federal employees who work for the Park Service specifically to like maintain DC's parks, of which there's a ton of them, because that's what DC is made of, seems backwards in some sort of way. I don't know. At the end of the day, in theory, could be great, could work. In practice, does not actually work at all.
Especially not without any council people or DC people on the board.
Yeah.
The show playing right now at Gala Theater is an absolute must-see. Choke is about a Latino family in Baltimore navigating a medical crisis and the impacts of environmental change. And I know what you're thinking, that sounds pretty serious, but they handle it all with humor and wit and a very relatable touch of chaos. It is actually so funny. And I mean, what family doesn't deal with generational clashes? The Guerrero family is a gripping reflection of today's American society, and the play about them is as thought-provoking as it is entertaining. So come see the world premiere of Choke at Gala Theater today through May 18th. Get your tickets at galatheater.org or call 202-234-7174. That's 202-234-7174 to see Choke at the Gala Theater right now.
Are you still looking for that last-minute Mother's Day gift? Combine your love for local and your love for mom by taking her to the Capitol Hill Restoration Society House and Garden Tour. The tour features 13 beautiful homes and gardens and 3 semi-public buildings on Capitol Hill. Your mom will feel like royalty exploring some of DC's most elegant historic buildings with you. There's even a refreshment break with treats from local vendors included. The tour runs Mother's Day weekend, May 10th and 11th. Tickets are usually $50, but you can get them for $40 if you book before Mother's Day weekend. Buy tickets through Eventbrite or through the Restoration Society website, chrs.org. So it is hard year after year to find meaningful Mother's Day gifts for all the moms in your life. But if there's one thing that's a sure hit with my mom, it's pictures of me. Well, actually, pictures of my kids. But sharing photos with loved ones is complicated, especially with less tech-savvy family members. Thankfully, Aura's Carver Mat frame keeps it simple. Setup takes less than 2 minutes, and the whole family can share as many photos as they want, completely remotely. Aura has a great deal for Mother's Day. For a limited time, listeners can save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off plus free shipping on their best-selling Carver Mat frame. That's AURA frames.com, promo code CityCast. Support the show by mentioning us at checkout. Terms and conditions apply.
Okay, so let's take a quick break, because if there's one theme to all of these stories, it is that we are in a time of change and a little bit of chaos. And so as we are ending up our spring membership campaign, I think that uncertainty, we're all really feeling it. And it also relates to the uncertainty about what things are going to cost. And that uncertainty is not only hard to navigate for all of us, but it also impacts industries, especially industries that rely on advertising. For CityCast, membership is a critical way that we navigate that uncertainty and make sure that we can keep on bringing you this show. I know that you all value local journalism because you're listening to me right now. And now we are asking for your help to make sure that we can keep on bringing it to you. So when you become a CityCast neighbor, you really do support the work that makes this show happen. If you become a neighbor, you will get the adorable CityCast Neighbors mug. You'll get invites to members-only events, and you'll get those embarrassing photos of Julia and Priyanka and Kayla. None of me because none exist, as I said. So go to membership.citycast.fm to be part of it. That's membership.citycast.fm. And thank you so much for supporting our work. All right, let's continue with our conversation about how Trump's first 100 days has already impacted D.C.
All right. Okay. Well, next up is Ed Martin, the interim U.S. attorney for D.C. And we have to keep saying interim because he hasn't actually been confirmed yet, because he's done so much crazy stuff in the first 100 days that the Senate, which normally doesn't really put up a fight on this particular post, is considering not confirming him. Senator Adam Schiff from California has actually put a hold on the confirmation of Ed Martin. In case you haven't been following along, Ed Martin is a defense attorney. He's actually never been a prosecutor ever.
Wait, seriously?
Yeah. He's also never lived in D.C. ever. I mean, before this year. He's most well known for defending January 6th rioters, people who attacked the Capitol on January 6th. He's also referred to that event as a celebration. He's compared it to Mardi Gras. And he, in 2020, was also a big supporter of the concept that Trump did not lose that election, which is obviously a lie. So, yes, very controversial figure. And in the first 100 days of being in this role, he has gutted the office, which prosecutes both local and federal crimes in D.C. He's dropped several hundred Capitol riot police assault cases. He says he wants to, rewrite the rules around police misconduct. So basically he's saying that judges don't need to know if officers who are about to testify in a case have any blips on their record that could tarnish their credibility. And so that means that police officers who have been accused or convicted of bad things in the past could testify on the stand as if they are perfect, upstanding police citizens. Ed Martin also champions this thing he calls the Make DC Safe Again initiative, which is trying to prosecute gun-related crimes in federal court instead, which would mean much higher penalties. So, these crimes, like unlicensed possession of a handgun, is a much lower sentence in local courts, but he wants to try it in federal courts. And there's also concerns that his language and plans around all of this could lead to more racial profiling. I'm already at 2.5 minutes because that's how long it takes to describe everything that Martin's done.
Just this morning, I was reading that he was picking a fight with the Wikipedia Foundation because trying to challenge their nonprofit status because he doesn't like the fact that Wikipedia says that he exactly what Priyanka says, how unqualified he is. He's like, I'm going to threaten your nonprofit status.
Unreal.
Okay, so let's talk about what's happening with D.C. as a sanctuary city. Is D.C. still a sanctuary city? Well, it depends on who you ask. So back in March, the D.C. government removed a webpage that upheld D.C. as a, quote, sanctuary city. Now, Democratic mayors were all called to testify in front of Congress to kind of defend their status as sanctuary cities. And you would think that would include Mayor Bowser because D.C. is a sanctuary city. However, it did not include her. There was an FAQ page answering questions about immigration rights and discrimination and school access for immigrants that disappeared from the D.C. government website. Now, the webpage also had statements that Bowser made during 2016 when she was much more vocally defiant against Trump, where she declared that D.C. was doubling down on being a sanctuary city. At the time, Bowser was marshaling taxpayer dollars to fight things like deportations and creating grants for defense lawyers and nonprofits to help undocumented immigrants in D.C. Now, Bowser isn't even using the phrase sanctuary city anymore. She said it's because it's, quote, misleading to suggest that anyone, if you're violating immigration laws, that this is a place where you can violate immigration laws, she said. Quote, you are vulnerable to federal immigration enforcement. So she's really kind of walking back some of her really vocal, explicit support of D.C. being a sanctuary city. When asked if D.C. would comply with ICE directives, she did say that D.C. would simply follow the law. We actually did a CityCast episode breaking down some of this, but DC has a law that limits how much city agencies and local law enforcement cooperate with ICE. That measure, passed by the DC Council during Trump's first term, has effectively reinforced DC's status as a sanctuary city. So regardless of whether these pages come down, whether the mayor is changing the way that she speaks about DC as a sanctuary city, that is DC's current law. And so she's saying oh yeah, we'll just follow that law.
Yeah, I think it's basically there's a big push in DC government to not flaunt things that could potentially trigger DC as a punching bag for the federal government. And so the immigration experts we spoke with for the show said that DC technically is still kind of a sanctuary city, but they're just not advertising that anymore. But the upsetting thing about it is that part of sanctuary city status is that it's only valuable insofar as people know that the city is complying with that perspective. Because the idea is that people are more likely to cooperate with law enforcement and speak up if they see something or hear something that makes the city unsafe, if they don't feel like their status here or ability to continue living here would be threatened by coming forward.
Exactly. And the data is really clear that immigrants are more likely to be the victims of crime or disproportionately. And so if that community cannot come forward to report what they have seen or talk to law enforcement about what's going on, it makes us all less safe.
Yeah, there's also been rumors of raids all around the city. Particularly, there was one potentially at an elementary school. So it is a scary time all around.
Yeah, we did an episode with education expert Scott Goldstein all about that. So definitely check it out if you want to hear more.
Okay, our last two things here are a little bit more cultural. So the first one is Black Lives Matter Plaza. Unfortunately, it no longer exists. Backstory for anyone who hadn't been following along, Mayor Bowser had Black Lives Matter painted in massive yellow letters in front of the White House. So it's a portion of 16th Street, kind of 3 blocks or so, I guess. In 2020, this was at the height of the George Floyd protests, and it was definitely meant to be kind of a slight at President Trump that this language that he had been pretty against was now right in front of the White House. And it was a sign of defiance from Mayor Bowser during that first term. As we've mentioned over and over again, her stance and tone is very different this term. And so the second Congress people started to talk about wanting to have Black Lives Matter painted over, she caved pretty quickly and was like, fine, you know what? We're getting rid of it. It was about a month into this administration, I think, that she agreed to have it painted over. It's now completely gone. The removal took about 3 weeks. The BLM Plaza street sign is also taken down, and it just says 16th Street now. The whole thing cost DC taxpayers about $600,000, which, in the grand scheme of our budget isn't that much. But when you think about what $600,000 can pay for, that is a significant amount of money. And Mayor Bowser says that she agreed to this because the city has bigger fish to fry. Things like threats against our budget. We haven't even mentioned this, but President Trump over years has threatened over and over again to completely take over DC. I imagine that's also the, quote, bigger fish to fry that Bowser is talking about. But the loss of BLM Plaza is significant, I think, for the city from a cultural standpoint. It, first of all, is a physical representation of the city backing down from a lot of fights. And DC prides itself as having been chocolate city for so many years. So just physically erasing Black Lives Matter from our streets feels impactful from a symbolic perspective.
Yeah, there's this fine needle that Mayor Bowser has to thread where if she says anything too harsh, it's very clear that the Trump administration is going to come down on her. And her capitulating on this very early on was kind of the first signal of, ooh, this is how it's going to go.
Yeah, it does not bode well for kind of just the way that the city is fighting back and the kinds of battles it will win and lose.
If you want to talk about battles that the city is going to lose, unfortunately, one of those things, or multiple of those things, are the Kennedy Center and the Smithsonian's being taken over by the Trump administration. Almost immediately, when it came to the Kennedy Center's board, Trump eliminated most of the board. He installed himself as the chair. He replaced the board with folks who generally agreed with him on what the Kennedy Center should be about. Think about Second Lady Usha Vance. And basically, once this happened, a bunch of people in protest canceled their subscriptions, and also guests canceled their appearances. So Issa Rae canceled an appearance. One little thing that happened, though, was the band Guster performed a concert there, and that was kind of like in protest to say, you know, like, screw you, which was fascinating. But basically, what Trump has boiled this down to is he wants the Kennedy Center to really make money as a business, but also he wants more traditional shows. So like Hello Dolly, even though Hello Dolly has been performed at the Kennedy Center. It also means eliminating a bunch of LGBTQ plus programming purposefully. World Pride events have been canceled because it's believed that the Trump admin isn't going to follow through on the contracts that World Pride signed with the Kennedy Center. So some of those acts are like the International Pride Orchestra concert, a drag story hour, a Pride-related arts exhibit, and there's one that includes panels from the AIDS Memorial Quilt. So, like, the idea that that's going to get canceled during Pride Month is really just like a stab in the gut. People who have been there, though, have taken some power back. People have booed JD and Usha Vance when they were there for a performance, so voicing their displeasure to what's going on. And it's not just the Kennedy Center that is under attack. All of the Smithsonians are under attack for DEI ideology, diversity, equity, inclusion stuff. Particularly the African American Museum of History and Culture is under big time heavy scrutiny. But a bunch of people have come to the city specifically to see some of the stuff before it goes away. So it's looking grim for our arts and culture out here, guys.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just one of my favorite things about DC is our access to these kinds of free institutions, these free museums, as a source of education and culture. And it is a shame to think that when I go now, I can't necessarily trust that it is the full breadth of like diversity and education that I want it to be.
Yeah, overall, I mean, there is this attempt at making history kind of what they feel it is and what they want it to be. And going after history and culture is the way to do it. And I don't know, it's gonna be interesting to see what happens next when it comes to those institutions.
And our experience of them as locals.
Priyanka, Julia, thank you so much for joining me to break all of this down. And before we go, I want to give a big thank you to our newest CityCast DC neighbors, Michael O., Rishi S., Eric M., and Elisa G. Thank you so much for joining. We really appreciate it.
It's really nice to hear that and recognize the support that we're getting from people. We also get a little message every time someone new joins the CityCast Neighbors program, which is an amazing little like endorphin boost throughout the day. So seriously, thank you for joining. Thank you for giving us that boost. And also thanks for just the support that you're providing for our show and for our city by supporting us.
And if you want to hear your name in that list and have your name give Priyanka a little endorphin boost, become a CityCast DC neighbor at membership.citycast.fm. And that is all for today here on CityCast DC. If you enjoyed the show, share it with a friend who never takes a bad photo. We'll be back tomorrow morning with even more news from around the city. Talk to you then. Sorry, there's a siren happening outside of my place.
What appropriate timing.
It's that safe and beautiful task force. They
Yeah.
know.
They're coming for you.
Maybe it's our old friend Ed.
Sup, Ed?